Hi everyone, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So I'm continuing my series on this X-Men group shot. Continuing to add the Copic marker colors. So now we're going to focus on two X-Men today. We've got Jubilee and Storm. So we're going to do a twofer today. So let's flip the camera around. Let's get to coloring. So as you can see, we've gotten quite a few X-Men done here. Here's our progress so far. And let's get Jubilee in frame here as we color her next. So there we go, we got Jubilee. So we're going to jump right into her skin tones. Going to start with some YR 000. Oops, bumped the rig there, so sorry. Some YR 000. Now she's a smaller figure. A lot of these figures are going to get smaller as we move further and further into the background, so the detail will be a little less than detail than we have, say, on like the Wolverine or even the Kitty Pryde. There still will be a level of detail, but the further we get back, the less we see of all these details. And let's get her little part of her shin right there. Okay, so that gets the skin color done here pretty easily. I'm going to add a little bit of E02. Just a little bit here. Going to bring in those pinks I like to use for the nose and cheeks. So I'm going to come in with a little R20. Just rosies up the face. I like that effect. Now let's see. Let's tackle her top, which is oftentimes pink. So I'm using some RV13. As always, using a little bit of the white of the artboard, though there's not much that we'll utilize here for Jubilee because she's going to fall further behind other characters, so there'll be more shadows on her. But just a wee little bit. I think her earrings are pink as well. If not, they are now. And I think her shades are pink also. So we'll just continue to use some of this RV13 in through here. Definitely leaving a little more white there on the sides, because remember, as we've established with the other characters, the light is coming from our upper left. So I'm going to leave some white where the light would be hitting on her shades there and giving some reflection. I'm going to come in with a little RV66. Just for a little more potency in the reflection there in the shades. Make it look a little different than her top, just a little bit. And I'm going to come in with some RV52 for her top. Here it's a little bit of a lighter shade of pink. Just to kind of differentiate a little bit more. Just a subtle sort of look there. Let's hit her. Sorry, my alarm went off there. So let's come in with some yellows for her jacket. Going to start with a Y13. This jacket comes all the way, it's a trench coat, so it comes all the way down there to her knees. Let's come in with a little Y21. For some little darker shades, like for what falls behind her neck, the lapels falling over the body of her coat. A little bit here as it's closer to her shirt there. And that really works for that there, so we're good on that front. And let's bring some blue in for her gloves and boots. So we'll start with the boots. Just gonna do that one little bit there for the boots. They're so far down, back behind that little wall there. Don't need to give it a lot of detail. Now for her gloves. Now since she's putting off some of her jubilation fireworks here, I'm leaving a little bit more white towards the tips of her fingers, just because we're going to convey a little bit of the brightness of the light that is emanating off of her fingertips. And let's see, let's come in with some B's. That was the B04 I was using, and this is the B01. Just kind of blending that B4 into the B04, I should say, towards the white. Leaving the teeniest, tiniest bit of white there, right on the tips of her fingers there, for a power effect. Let's bring some RV32 to color her lips. I use the very tip-top point of this brush tip to get that fine line that I need, just to hit that very thin area for her lips there. Now let's color her hair. I'm going to start with a B45 as a base. It's kind of a bluish shade for that comic book blue-black hair. Starting from the base of her hair, and then pulling outwards, leaving a center stripe through the hair as a kind of that healthy body sheen highlight, much like I did with Kitty Pryde, as we see right through there. We did the same with Jean. Same mentality here going, same mode of thinking here going for Jubilee. Just getting a bit of that little white highlight kind of cutting through there as well as possible. This is a really tiny shot, so that's a really tiny detail that we're working into there. But it can we want to give that eye candy to the viewer. And it's still a decent enough size to where we can get that kind of detail into there. All right, so Jubilee is coming along here pretty quickly. Let's add her firework effect. So I'm going to go back to that RV13. And remember when I was in the inking stage, I used different colored pens to ink her firework effects? It was setting me up for this stage here, where that colored line work makes it look more ethereal, more like light, where the black lines are more the solid things. These colored lines make them look more like fireworks, or with Dazzler, when we color Dazzler in the coming weeks, it'll look more like her light show lasers. So it was very intentional to color with these colored pens. I'm referring to the colored microns, I mean, to create these colored lines. So that was the effect I'm going for there. So let's see, we use the B01 for that one there. It's got a red there, so we'll hit that with a bit of a pinkish red, some R85. And we had some orange there. Let's hit that with a R06. And then we have some greens. Let's go with the YG03. And a little dollop right there. So that's her jubilation power going off there. Let's get some red on her X logo. So that would be the R24. And now let's drop in some grays for some shadows. So we're going to start with the cool gray 1 for her face. Get a little cool gray there in the teeth, create a little bit of a shadow for the teeth. Let's bump that up to a cool gray 2. Start working some cool grays here into her clothing over these yellows, over the pink. On that back side of the lapel of her jacket, here through her midriff. As the further we move down, we're moving away from the light source, moving away from the light that might be generated a little bit from her fireworks there. More shadows, so using more gray. Let's bring this cool gray. We're just going to cover up all of her leg here because it's so far in the background. It's recessing behind Wolverine's arm, Kitty Pryde's arm. So it's just going to be more grayed out so that Kitty Pryde and Wolverine pop there into the foreground a little bit more. So we don't have competing yellows and blues. Okay, and now let's come in with a little bit of cool gray 4 for the blue of her gloves. Just bumping up the intensity of that, or the darker shade of gray to really work there on that shade of blue. Just a little bit in the face here, like there on the bridge of the nose, just to really delineate that bridge from the cheek. Maybe a little bit more under her chin, maybe a little bit here on the collar, maybe a little bit more back here, to really create that sense of depth. Now for her hair here, we started the process with that B45. Now I want to come in with some neutral 4 and add some of this neutral gray, neutral 4 here to kind of make it look a little less blue. I don't want to go straight gray because I don't want her to have gray hair, but I don't want her to be straight blue because then it's a little too blue, too classic comic bookish. I want to give a little bit more of a sense of realism, just a subtle sense. And let's see, now I want to put in just a few finishing touches here. I'm going to use this Uniball Signo white gel pen. And I'm going to just drop in some little flecks here into her fireworks and around her hands to convey that power signature. Put a little highlight there in her nose. And Jubilee is done. So let's see what we can do with Storm here. So first up, let's start with her skin color. So we're going to start with her skin tone, E15. And start sculpting out the base shades of the head, starting with a little bit of a darker tone here initially, and we'll move to some lighter shades as we go. So keeping in mind that light source above and to the left, leaving a lot of white open there for the next shade, a lighter shade, E13. So I'm going to blend that E13 in with the E15. Kind of a little bit on this side. So I'm keeping a little bit of a white highlight on her skin there on the forehead, that side of the forehead. A little bit here on her cheek. This is a really tiny shot of Storm, so we're not going to leave a lot of highlighted detail. She's even just a little bit smaller than Jubilee, so the amount of detail will be just a little bit less. That takes care of her skin tones. Let's drop in some shades for her hair now. Coming in with she has white hair. Storm is known for her shocking white hair. So I'm going to start with some B000 for a base. Starting at the root of the hair and pulling away, because we'd have more of a shade towards the root of the hair because less light can get there. I'm going to add some cool gray 1 over that. Similar approach that we did to Iceman and Colossus. It's what I like to do. And I want a bluish gray. I kind of create it using light blues and light grays, because then I can determine how much gray or blue I want in that. Let's come in with a little cool gray 3 for a little bit of a darker shadow right here underneath this one flip, right there towards the back side of the hair, underneath the flips where I want that darker shade of gray. Let's come in with some red for her X logos, some R24. Let's color in let's add a little bit more red here. Let's try some R27 now on just this one side here. Now for some yellows, gonna use my classic X-Men yellow Y13. Get the earrings and the collar. The trim of her cape. Stripe down her costume and the belt. Let's come bring in the Y21 for a little bit of a darker shade in the places where the shadows would hit. Still will come in with the cool grays later on, but this is just that secondary color I like to use. Okay, and now her costume is kind of this whitish gray, so I think I'm going to use neutral grays to convey that. I'm going to start with some neutral gray 3 initially here. So just kind of tackling the undersides, the bottom parts. So leaving a lot of the white. Her costume was this design was a really interesting look, how it looked. Sometimes it looked black, sometimes it looked white. There were times when this costume was black, there were times when this costume looked white, but there was a time in the 90s where it really had kind of like, it's almost reflective depending on the angle that you were looking at her. So it would either look darker or it would look more like a white, just depending. So I kind of want to capture that. So I'm using a lighter, a medium shade of gray, but a little bit more towards the lighter side, because I can always go darker if I need to, just to kind of get that look going. So leaving a lot of the white of the board as the white part of her uniform. Mostly just putting it on the undersides wherever things are overlapping and casting a shadow. Just putting in a little second layer here, so it's all neutral gray 3 right now. Let's come in with a little darker shade for some areas. Let's bring in a little neutral gray 5. Right here underneath the shoulder pad, right down here underneath the arm, the palms of the hands, under this part of her chest, underneath this arm, and as the legs move forward further towards the background, more gray, less white. As part of the abdomen, there we go. So that makes Storm pretty simple to color. And now let's add some facial shadows, some skin tone shadows. I'm going to start with a cool gray 3. Putting these shadows on the opposite side of where we've determined the light source to be, which, as we all know from every video here, is upper and to the upper left just a bit. Put some of this cool gray here through the yellow. Really love how the cool gray looks on the yellow. You really get a great sense of that shadow vibe. So you see, just knowing the shapes, knowing the shapes of the body parts, the roundedness of it. Just under this part of the chest, a little bit of gray right there. As the abdomen, it cuts forward, back, just all the back parts. And then that creates that sense of 3-dimension and depth. So that's why we study our anatomy, really learn the shapes, and then what shapes do they take, what shapes do the body parts take from different angles. So that was some cool gray 3, and we're going to come in with a little cool gray 4. Just for a little deeper, darker shade, shadows. A little bit here in the X logos. And there we go. Storm is done. Jubilee and Storm in one video. So let's flip the camera around and sign off. Hey, there we go. So it's a twofer time. We got Jubilee and Storm now added to this. So this is really coming along together pretty quickly, and we've just got a handful more to go. So coming up next is Bishop. Bishop's on deck. So make sure you join me next week for the Bishop color video. Maybe Bishop Dazzler. We'll see how much I can get done in one video. Hopefully we can do a twofer. If not, we'll at least get Bishop covered. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out with me. Hope you're having fun. Hope you're learning something. Feel free to leave me a thumbs up and a comment. I appreciate the support and the feedback. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure you click subscribe. It'll keep you from missing out on my future art video. And if you're on the social medias like the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Tumblrs, the Facebooks, I'm on there too, and all my links are listed below. So I wish you all the best with your art. Keep on drawing, keep having fun. I'm Todd Nauck. Take care.